Well, hello, and welcome in. This is episode 3 of Mystery in the Ozarks. If you missed the first 2 episodes, you might want to go back and watch. This is the series where I'm writing a book and reading it to you guys as we go along. No changes from last week. Hope you enjoy. Also, if you could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. All right, see you in the next one. Okay. Chapter 4. What? I'm sorry, did you say Jesse James? Jake asked a bit incredulously. Yeah, like, how do you know it's Jesse James? Will replied. Well, if you two Neanderthals ever read anything or did any research, you would have probably come to the same conclusion. Also on the cipher, the initials JJ are in the corner. That made it all click, she said as she held up the paper with the letters and symbols on it. In the corner, Jake could see the 2 letters JJ written quickly but clearly. I'm pretty positive our grandfather was after the treasure that was supposedly lost to time in those hills, Carol continued. This is crazy, Jake blurted out. Yo, Grandpa was in his 90s. How can we trust anything he said? Mom said several times that she felt like he was not all there anymore. How can we trust anything he sent us? Well, I mean, what does it hurt to look into, though? Will chimed in. I mean, we're stuck here for the weekend already, and we have nothing better to do. I mean, come on, Jake. Do you want to sit here and play Uno and Monopoly for 3 days? Or do you want to go on an adventure? Even if Gramps was out of his mind, the adventure itself would confirm would be worth it. Jake looked to Will with doubt in his eyes. But one of us gets hurt. But what if one of us gets hurt? Or lost? Or worse, Jake replied. Oh, come on, we've been all over this place since we were little. It's never stopped us before. What's the harm in just looking? Will retorted with excitement in his eyes. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with Will, Carol added. Jake turned to her a bit shocked. Carol and Will may have been cousins, but the 2 never agreed on anything. Like at all. What? I don't think I've ever heard you utter those words, Jake said, still a bit in shock. Yeah, I know, but I'm bored out of my mind hanging with my mom. She's been really clingy ever since Dad passed, and something like this would be a good distraction from all of it, Carol replied. Besides, Grandpa left each of us a piece of the puzzle. It seems like he wanted this to happen. He wants us to find this together. Yeah, Jake, do it for Grandpa. Just at least open the journal and see what it says, Will added. I mean, I guess there's no harm in just reading what he said, Jake replied, a bit curious himself as to what it was all about. Carol and Will joined Jake on the couch and they set the compass, cipher, and journal next to each other on the old wooden coffee table. Okay, but like I said, this doesn't mean we're going to go after some treasure. Just finding out more of what Grandpa was up to, Jake added as he reached to open the journal. Yeah, sure, whatever. Just open it, Will interjected. Jake opened the journal and turned to the first page, which was filled with another handwritten message from his grandfather. Jake began reading it aloud. Jake, Carol, and Will, you are all 3 amazing grandchildren, and I hope you are all reading this together. I have sent you each a piece of history that, when used together, should locate the lost Arkansas treasure of the great Jesse James. Yes, I knew it! Man, I'm so smart! Carol elated with herself. Yeah, pipe down, nerdy. I want to hear the rest, Will said. Sorry, just excited as I was right. Go ahead, Jake, Carol retorted. Jake continued reading the message. If you want to know more on how the treasure got here, the best and most honest story is in a book called The Myth of the Mountains by Harold Agnew. It is the most complete I've been able to find. I don't have time to write the full story here, just know the story is real and the treasure is 100% hidden somewhere on this mountain, or on the mountain that is now home to the Mulberry River Campground. The reason I know this for sure is because tucked inside the next pages of this journal is an envelope. Inside that envelope are many pieces of a map. However, the map needs to be put back together using the cipher. When Jesse and his men had run from the law, they actually made camp in the exact same spot as the cabin that I always stayed in. Outside of that cabin is a large, tall pine tree. Through the research I had done, there was a letter that Jesse had tried to send back to his family with information on the location of the treasure. But someone intercepted it before it got to them. A friend of mine claimed to have seen this alleged letter and stated that in it, Jesse had written a line, "Pine trees are great at keeping secrets, especially the big ones." Upon hearing this, I thought of the large pine right there in the middle of the cabins. Jake looked out the window to the courtyard in between all the cabins, and sure enough, a massive pine loomed almost exactly in the middle of all of them. He continued reading. The last time we visited the campground on a wild hare one night while everyone was sleeping, I went out and began to dig at the base of the tree. I dug down about 4 foot and was about to give up when I hit a small wooden box. Excited, I pulled the box out and headed to the cabin. Inside the box was a compass, a cipher, an envelope, and a small handwritten note. The note said, "Start at the place where the water never ends. Face it north, and the compass will guide you. The cipher will decode it for you, and the map will show you the way. You will need all three to find the treasure." I wanted to run and tell everyone and show them the proof that I had finally found something. However, your parents already thought I was off my rocker. So I decided that the next time we visited, I would find the treasure and prove myself right. Unfortunately, when we returned home, I received a call from the doctor about my diagnosis. He let me know I had pancreatic cancer and I would not last more than a couple of weeks at best with my age. It was then that I began to try to get everything in place to help you three carry on my legacy. I knew if I told your parents, they would write it off as an old man being crazy. So that's pretty much all I know. I didn't get much time to look at the map, cipher, and compass together, but I know in my soul that you three can find this treasure and prove me right. I love you all. You can do this. Trust in each other. You all have the strengths that will help you along the way. The rest of this journal is filled with articles and small pieces of information I have found during my journey. Hope it helps. Use the compass and the cipher to find out how the map goes together. I'm sure they all work together in some way. Love, Gramps. P.S. The last time we were at the campgrounds, I saw some other people snooping around, and I'm worried there are others searching for this as well. Please be careful. Jake finished reading, set the book down, and sat back on the couch quietly pondering all he had just read. "Ah, this is awesome!" Will hollered out to break the silence. "I will admit this is pretty exciting," Carol added. "What do you think, Jake?" she asked, noticing him somewhat lost in thought. Okay, I'm in," Jake responded after a few seconds of silence. "Yes, let's go! How do we start? Like, when do we start? Where do we start?" Will asked excitedly. "Start what?" Papa Mike's voice came from the door of the cabin. Will started panicking, knowing that they were not supposed to tell their parents anything. "We were just talking about a big Monopoly tournament or something similar. Nothing crazy, Dad," Jake added quickly as he nonchalantly closed the journal and stood up in front of the table to cut off Mike's view of it. Carol picked up on this as well and said, "Hey, Uncle Mike, do you know what the dinner plans are? I'm starving." Yeah, that's what I came over here for. Aunt Peggy wants all of us to have dinner in your cabin tonight. Like one big family. So y'all grab your stuff and come join us over there," he said with a smile as he turned and walked back out of the cabin. "Whew, that was too close," Carol said, sighing as her uncle Mike headed back to the other cabin. "Yeah, it was. Okay, y'all, can we agree that we will talk about this more in the morning and find a game plan from there? It sounds like we're stuck with our parents all night, but they are planning to go fishing tomorrow, and I bet we three can get away to investigate this more. But for tonight, we agree. No talk of this to anyone outside the three of us, right?" He put his hand out to shake on it with the other two. They all three shook and agreed. Carol folded up the cipher and put it into her pocket. Will grabbed the compass and pocketed it. Jake said, "Okay, that settles it. Let's go get some food, I'm starving," as he picked up the journal and secured it in his pocket as well. Chapter 5. The next day. Jake yawned himself awake as the Arkansas sun squeezed through the curtains just enough that a sliver of light cast itself directly into his eyes. He sat up on the couch and looked around the cabin. He noticed that the coffee pot was already brewing on the kitchen counter. "I bet Dad's up and having coffee on the porch," he thought to himself as he stood up and stretched. "Oh yeah, the treasure!" His thoughts raced. He, Carol, and Will had tried several times to sneak off during dinner the night before, but their parents had always stopped them for some reason. "Okay, I need to get Will and Carol and get working on what is next," he thought to himself as he walked over to the front door and opened it. Mike was sitting in an old turquoise and white plastic-strapped lawn chair on the porch laughing to himself as he watched his iPhone drinking a cup of coffee. "Well, hey there, sleepyhead," he said as he looked up from the phone at his son. "The stuff people put on TikTok, it's crazy. Funny, for sure," he said with a chuckle, "but crazy." Jake smiled to himself. It was fun to see his dad watching social media and enjoying it so much. "Hey, Jim, good morning," Mike said, waving as he noticed Jim had made his way out onto the wooden porch of their cabin across the way. "Morning, Mike. Are we doing the usual breakfast burritos at your place before we go fishing?" Tim hollered back with a smile. "You know it," Mike called back. Tim let out a yes as he fist pumped into the air with excitement. "Hey, don't forget us," Aunt Peggy called out as she walked out onto the porch of her cabin as well. "Jake, Carol said she's something that she wants to show you and Will over here on her laptop. Mike, do y'all need any help?" "Never mind. You know what? I know you do. I'll be right over," she said with excitement. Yeah, sure, Peg. Come on over," Mike said, knowing she would be more in the way than helpful. "Hey, Dad, I'm going to head over to see what Carol is wanting to show us. Is that cool?" Jake asked. "Of course, son. Go have fun," his father replied. "Hey, I'm coming too, dude." Will's voice came from the direction of their cabin's porch. Will came running out of the cabin door, grabbed the railing for the porch, and launched himself over the side. It wasn't a huge drop to the ground, but Will had not expected the dew to be so fresh on the grass. When his feet hit the wet blades, they shot right out from under him, and smack! Will was laying on his back, groaning from the pain of hitting the ground. "You okay, dude?" Jake hollered at his clumsy friend. "Yeah, I'm good, I think," Will said as he rolled over and worked on standing up. "Okay, well, let's go see what Carol wanted us for," he confirmed back to Will. "Yep, on my way," Will responded as he was dusting himself off. "Glad you're okay, Will." "Sally and I'll be over shortly, Mike," Tim said as he chuckled at his son's flop onto the ground. Jake made his way down the porch steps and met Will at the steps to the porch of Carol's cabin. Aunt Peggy was walking down the stairs as they both made their way up to enter. "Y'all head on in. Carol's been up since the crack of dawn working on her laptop," she said as she passed them. The boys acknowledged this with a quick nod of their heads and continued on inside the cabin. "Y'all," Carol said excitedly from her spot on the couch in the living room. "You won't believe what I think I found." She continued pointing at the screen as they walked into the old gray wooden cabin. "Hey, close the door first, please," she said in a more hushed tone. Jake closed the door behind him and he and Will made their way to the couch. They sat on either side of her so they could see the screen she was referring to. Jake looked at the screen, but all he could see was a large article with a ton of words in it. "Carol, what are we looking at?" Jake asked. "Oh, sorry," Carol said as she began to scroll down the article. "I've been searching Reddit and Google all morning and found this article that talks about how Jesse James was infamous for using ciphers when he was trying to hide something." "Yeah, we knew that already, right?" Will said with a bit of sarcasm in his voice. "Okay, smarty pants, yes we did. But did you know this?" Carol said as she stopped scrolling and clicked on a photo to enlarge it. "This site claims that the photos in it are of Jesse and were taken by him as clues to where his treasure is, and were supposedly supposed to be sent to his family along with that letter that never made it to them. Now, there's no evidence that these are real photos or that they are unedited, but look at this." There on the screen in front of them was an old black and white photo of a man standing in front of a waterfall holding what looked to be the exact same compass their grandfather had left them. But the man was holding it in a weird way, as if he were looking through it like a spyglass. "I also thought I'd seen that waterfall before, and I had," she said excitedly, as she grabbed a small paper pamphlet that was sitting on the table next to the laptop. It was folded open to the middle and had a picture of a small but beautifully serene waterfall that looked identical to the one in the old photo. "That's the Phipps Branch waterfall," she said excitedly, looking at the two boys, waiting to see their reaction. Okay," Will said, not following her completely. I swear, I have to spell everything out for you two. Will, do you have the compass?" she asked a bit impatiently. "Well, yeah, it's right here." He pulled the old compass out of his pocket and handed it to her. "Perfect," she said, and she took it from him. She looked it over in her hands for a few seconds before she said, "There!" And they heard a small click from a tiny button she pressed on the compass's underside. A small sliver of metal popped up with a tiny ring at the end of it. "Huh," she said with slight confusion in her voice. "I thought there'd be something on the compass, but I'm not sure what this is," she said, still a bit perplexed as she set it down on the coffee table. "Whatever it is, it's pretty cool," Will said as he grabbed the compass and began looking it over in his hands. "What was that?" Jake said, as he saw something dart across the wall. "What? I didn't see anything," Will said as he fiddled with the compass. "There," Carol said as she pointed to a small circle of light that was dashing all across the room. "Will, hold the compass still," she said excitedly. "Okay, but why?" "Oh!" go! His eyes grew with excitement as he realized that the compass was where the light was coming from. Yes, I knew there was something funky with that compass, Carol said excitedly. Okay, y'all ready to go? She suddenly asked as if they knew what she was talking about. What? Go where? Jake asked, a bit overwhelmed and very confused. The Phipps waterfall, of course. Remember in the note Grandpa found under the tree? Start at the place where the water never ends, face it north, and the compass will guide you. I think we need to take this compass to the waterfall and hold it up to the north to find the next clue. The two boys sat there in shock for what felt like several minutes, but was actually only a few seconds. Jake broke the silence. All right, I give up. I'm 100% in. Looks like we need to go check out a waterfall. Yes, we get to go treasure hunting, Will let out elated. Are you sure, Jake? We're all on board, Carol confirmed towards Jake. Yep, let's go make Grandpa proud and prove him right.